Oh! Who's the winner? Alright. So now we are going to start with our panel discussion.
Hey everyone, how you guys feeling? It's sounding cold, eh? Sounding very cold. How are you guys doing? Energy. Give it some. You guys need coffee. There's coffee. There's literally coffee there. Free coffee. No, if you need coffee, you get it later. But I just want you guys to be hyped up. How are you guys doing? As you guys know, some of you were involved in the workshop earlier. Thank you so much for attending, and I hope you guys had a great one. So we did announce it earlier on, but just for everyone to also know, like everyone that participates in the workshops, we have our top 5 winners. They were top 5 on the leaderboard. Do we have them in the crowd here? Okay. You want? Oh yeah. So can we have the top 5 outside in front of everyone? We just want to also congratulate you again for participating and also for the work you did. No, we need you guys outside. Whoa. Oh yeah, the top. Okay. Oh. I think we're missing one person. Yeah, I think we're missing one person. But yeah, guys, give it up for the top winners for the workshop. Do you guys mind take pictures? Thank you so much for participating. And for guys that missed out on the workshop, definitely look out for it. If you want to learn more, check Cloud Skills Boost. You can reach out to me and I'll just send you the link. But yeah, Cloud Skills Boost, you can get more information and you can actually play around with the platform. So thanks guys.
Hi everyone. Wow. Thank you guys. Thank you for everything. But I just want to start on time because we've been on time the whole day. So I don't want to break it. So I'm going to ask our panelists to please come up. I'm going to ask Sheena to come up for us, Kutlana to come up for us, John to come up for us, and Lucky to come up for us, please. Can you please give him a clap?
You want to see me watching?
Okay.
She. Big time. She's into radio, so whatever it is.
Hi everyone. Are we ready? We're almost done. Yes. Okay. So I prepared a whole long thing, but panel discussions are really good when they're authentic and everybody's part of the conversation, so I'll try to just dial it down a little bit. But just to remind everybody what we're trying to focus on, the topic today is shadow IT and AI, navigating innovation without compromising security in the age of AI-assisted development. Now, essentially, it's giving you polar opposites because when you think of shadow IT, it's usually in a negative light, right? And here we are looking at innovation, and that's attributed to AI. Now, when the conversation of responsible AI comes about, we want everybody to understand their part in it. Hence, we have a panel discussion here. So, to understand the topic, we must also realize that as much as there's an evolution in technology, there's a responsibility that we have as well. Not a superficial responsibility, but just understanding what exactly it is that we're doing. When you're putting in the data in a chat GPT, when you're using company data, and not just from a negative point of view. Sometimes you're innovating, you're doing the right thing, you're breaking barriers. So innovation is not either good or bad, but obviously we need to make sure that the impact is not dire in any sort of way. So without further ado, that's why we have these wonderful panelists that are going to help us navigate this topic. And just a brief introduction, I'm going to start on my far left. I've got Kudrano, who's an AI strategist and CEO of HighRises. Kudrano specializes in AI strategy and executive education, helping organizations adopt AI responsibility with a background in data analytics and experience in bridging AI knowledge and practical application. Kudrano will share insights of how shadow IT enables faster experimentation in AI and in the governance practices that can support responsible usage. Please give her a hand of applause. Okay, and right next to her, we've got John, our Senior Program Manager at Google. John leads Google's developer engagement programs across sub-Saharan Africa, with experience in developer advocacy of both Google and other companies that he's worked with before. John is dedicated to supporting African developers with resources that promote responsible and secure innovation. He'll share insights on how community standards and open source tools can contribute to secure practices in innovation, or what we are trying to now make a positive shadow IT. And then next to John, we've got Sheena, a tech educator and software development expert. Sheena's expertise lies in making tech education practical and impactful. With a background in software development and a focus on teaching responsible practices, Sheena is passionate about instilling secure habits in beginners and in advanced learners alike. She'll discuss how educational approaches can prepare developers to handle the ethical and security considerations of innovation and AI. And last but not least, right next to me, the guy who flies drones with bananas, a BDDer. I've got Lucky, who's an executive and head of ATC here at BDD, who specializes in consulting and R&D unit. That's what ATC is. Lucky has extensive experience in enterprise software development, particularly in sectors like banking, telecommunications, and insurance. His background gives him a unique perspective on using shadow IT or innovation in secure, large-scale environments, and as an educator in game design and computer science. He's passionate about responsible, innovative development practices. Please give him a hand of applause. Okay, I'll just delve right down to it. I think I'll start with you, Kudrano. With your experience in AI strategy and executive education, how do you see AI-assisted development changing the landscape for businesses and developers. Specifically, what role does innovation or shadow IT play in helping organizations in bridging gaps in AI knowledge and practical application?
Cool. Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here. I think this is such an exciting time and this is a great event. And Michelle, thank you so much for inviting me. So I think the truth is, in fact, I don't think the truth is innovation can only be regulated after it's done, right? You can't regulate what doesn't exist. And so in a lot of our current conversations, even yourselves as developers, it's up to you and the moral compass that you use in the innovation that you do. Because regulation and the law, and Sim Shabalala might be upset, but lawyers take a long time to all agree on what is right and what is wrong, and to document that. And so the world, as well as Africa, is behind on innovation. So as we create all our tools, there'll be biases. As we create all our innovation, there'll be all ethical questions. And the conversations that I'm currently having with executives and the CEOs that I partner with is really around them to decide in the table what are they comfortable with as an organization. And in implementing some of the AI tools, like the company that I'm currently working with currently is now starting to say to employees, please don't put our information on ChatGPT. But there are no systems currently in place to stop someone. How they're stopping employees is if we catch you, we'll fire you. But they actually don't have the tools to track. They're only starting to implement your data loss prevention tools that are coming into place. But again, it's because there was open AI, ChatGPT innovation, and now the regulation now comes lagging behind. And so that's where we currently sit. And as we develop, and I really encourage you guys to develop whatever you're developing, because currently it's up to us to imagine, right? The possibilities are absolutely endless in the technologies that we do. But it's up to us to decide, what am I comfortable with? What am I comfortable seeing the world look like in the next 5 to 10 years? What am I comfortable, if you have children or plan to have children, what does the future look like for those children? I think what I've experienced is a lot of people just design for today, it's exciting for today, but the long-term plan of what this looks like can be quite serious in some of the tools that we see as technology evolves. The world can be a scary place, but I think we have the power to not make it a scary place by then leading with the heart and leading with love. And I know it's quite different when you mix AI with love, but I've seen that that's what the world needs, because people in the workplace are currently uncertain, right? You see that mental health is shooting out the roof, especially in workplaces, because of the anxiety of this technology. Will I have a job tomorrow? Won't I have a job tomorrow? And it's really the innovation that it brings that then has to then be regulated only after that happens. So in whatever we do, let's think, yes, we currently are not going to be regulated with a lot of tools. The regulation is coming and it is lagging. But as you innovate and have the opportunity to innovate massively, to innovate and change the world, the possibilities again, like I mentioned, are absolutely endless. But let your own values and principles lead you, and then let the law catch up. So the law shouldn't find you on the wrong side. You decide what's right and wrong for you. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Lucky, maybe you can weigh in with regards to your experience in enterprise software development across sectors. What benefits and challenges have you seen with shadow IT in terms of driving innovation within an R&D environment? And how has this influenced your approach to balancing rapid development and secure practices?
Thanks, Michelle. So I think we are talking about things like regulation, we're talking about being responsible with AI because AI is new. But the principles that go into it are actually quite old. There's nothing that's stopping any of you from copying the code base of your clients and sharing it with your friends. But you typically don't do it, right? Because it's part of your professional practice. It's part of how you operate as an industry. But you can't just take stuff and put it in the public domain when you know that's IP or that's intellectual property that belongs to a specific entity. So those same principles that guide how we develop software and how we've been doing it for decades really continue into this new AI space. I think what is different is probably that a lot of people aren't thinking about the implications of what they do. which is where education around the matter is important. So to make it more practical, we had a client recently, a big insurer in the UK, who's worried that their employees are putting out, might be leaking code and information and data using things like ChatGPT. And so just telling people don't do it, they know it's not sufficient. So what do we do? And really, what it boils down to is, you know the value that these tools can deliver to your developers, they've proven it to you. And so perhaps it's one of the tool sets that you invest in responsibly. And part of the investment is also investing in education around it. So events like this is really important to get people to thinking about what it means to actually use these things and the potential benefits. So it can't be a single answer to say just ban everyone, but it needs to be a multifaceted approach. To say enable people, still give them the value and the opportunity to use all of these systems, but you also then need to have the policies that help them to use it responsibly.
Thank you very much, Lucky. They're clapping for their boss. Okay, so I think I want to go over to you, John. As a community manager, how do you see the developer community embracing AI-assisted tools? And how is Google supporting these developers, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, to adopt these tools responsibly?
Oh, thank you, Michelle. That's a really good question. For the tooling, developer tooling has come a very long way. For the gray-haired developers in the room, I remember a time when the biggest challenge was trying to get developer documentation integrated into IDEs, and now you have code assistance right out of your IDE. Right? If you think about it, it's such a significant transformation in software development. And the thing is that these tools are here to stay, and we see a lot of value in AI-assisted software development. If you think about the tooling that you're already using with code completion, code documentation, testing, and these use cases are tangible and real. From a Google perspective, one of the things we're doing is just education on how to use these tools on a day-to-day basis. We're advocating for use cases like where you have practices where you have sandboxes, test out these tools before you deploy it to your live environment. Earlier today, Olivier spoke about hallucinations on LLMs, on text. LLMs hallucinate on code as well, right? So the code that is generated has the right syntax, but doesn't work the right way. So these challenges are still there. These tools are really new, but they're improving on a day-to-day basis. So the reality is they're here to stay. You need to understand how they work and how they can accelerate your development journey as a software developer. But you need to be able to use them in a meaningful way, right? So you need to think about what is the code base, the security practices that you have as an organization. I know that from an enterprise perspective, there are guidelines and rules that you must follow. With startups as well, you must keep this as part of your mind. If you're a freelance software developer, you're working on a customer's project, it is important to keep these guidelines as part of your mind. And so for us, really, the first step is education, making these tools available to the software development as well. One really cool tool that is quite new for us is, I don't know how many of us have tried out IDX. It's a web-based IDE that has AI integration right out of the box. It is really cool. No more code switching, context switching as you copy code from Stack Overflow into your project and all of that. You get assistance right out of your IDE. Oh, and Project IDX now has Android support, which is good news for the Android devs in the room, right? And so this tooling is improving on an everyday basis. And so providing you access and the education that you need is super important. And I also wanted to address the question of security from a code and data perspective, right? A lot of the tooling that we currently have is online. And there are legitimate concerns about the platforms where we're putting in our code, right? If you want to test out a model and you have enterprise data, and you're hesitant on taking that data from online service. Now you have tools like Gemma that work offline that allow you to be able to experiment with AI, with LLMs, in an offline situation. And earlier today, Sam had a really cool demo on how you can that. So you have options as well. But everything is online, you have offline capabilities as well, which you can take advantage of.
Awesome, thank you. And of course, Sheena, as an educator, what value do you see in introducing AI-assisted tools to beginners? What practical steps do you take to ensure that students understand the ethical and security implications?
So it's kind of a crazy place right now, and it's crazy for a lot of different reasons. Don't laugh at me. Yeah, so there's a lot of different layers to it. I think on the shadow IT side of things specifically, a lot of the problems of shadow IT come from friction within organizations. It's just like the developers want to do X, and there's the functions in the way of them going in that direction, and they don't necessarily always understand why they're being blocked. And so the impulse is to innovate and to use the tools that will make them do their jobs better, faster, and so they work around systems. And so I think one thing that's very important that an educator should do is get developers to understand that there will be friction in organizations, and the thing to do when there is friction in an organization is not to like try and skirt around the friction and be like, those IT people, they just always say no. It's rather to try to understand the other point of view, to understand that there is a reason for people saying no to different things. So I assume everybody here knows what shadow IT is. No, not everybody does. Okay, so it's basically like, usually you'll have an IT department that gets to say what tools you use in your job, especially in larger companies, and they'll be able to say like, yay or nay, you can use this or you can't use this. And LLMs and shadow IT, like people will want to use LLMs to help them with their work, without necessarily considering all the security implications, but considering all of the like other implications as well, like you can do some pretty brittle, dodgy things with it. So initially, yeah, I think getting people to understand that there is a reason why people are saying no is a big deal. But I think there's also a lot to be said around the education within the organization itself. As Aki was saying, it's a business process thing. And if the IT department is just seen as like the no department, then that would be bad. And so there's a cultural aspect to it, and there's an education of the organization themselves about it. Like you need to, like the answer to like shadow IT is not to stop innovating and trying new things. It's like to have a conversation. And if you're training somebody into a technical position, they'll be trained into a junior position. They're not necessarily going to have the voice yet to dictate how things go. So there is a limit to what you can do. But giving people a proper appreciation of the consequences of their actions is a big deal, and getting them to look at other departments and try to empathize with them is a big deal. And getting them to understand, like a lot of the time if you're talking about security practices and whatnot, it's easy to say don't do that because it's important. You need to give people solid reasons behind things, and sometimes that means storytelling. That's very powerful, like getting people to understand, like, oh, somebody did this and then this happened, and seconding it by giving them a story. Or another really useful tool for education is the humble foot gun. Give people an opportunity to actually make a mistake and see what happened there. How's your foot? I'm so sorry. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yes, I think it did. And I think maybe Kutlwano can weigh in there to help us also understand some penalties that some organizations end up putting in place. Whether they are fair or not, they are well within their right to do that, so that we can really have like a practical understanding of what it all means to balance innovation and security, and how these challenges can be managed from the developer perspective and as well from an enterprise perspective.
Okay, so I'll start with enterprise. So the worst thing is you're going to get fired flat out, depending on what you decided to put on ChatGPT, cloud, so forth. You will get fired. Other times, if it's a lesser case, you've taken through the disciplinary action and then you taken for training. This is how we are going to run it forward. But in order for companies to do that, those are the companies that are advanced and have those policies in place, and so you broke the rule. But where a lot of companies find themselves is where they say it verbally. In a company meeting, they'll be like, no, please don't use ChatGPT, but they yet to document it. And so if you do, you're just putting yourself at risk to have almost a dot on your back that later they'll use to then, if they start showing up to work late, they then use the previous thing that they didn't have a company policy for, and the fact that you're always showing up late to then kick you out of the company, those type of things. But a lot of companies just give you the training and educate you on those, that element. And then on the developer side, a lot of managers are also figuring AI out. What I've seen is a lot of CTOs, CIOs, even chief data analytics officers are really figuring out how to use this tool. And so the rest, they'll only tell you, please don't put your code there, but you're allowed to almost consult, if I can say. So go there to ChatGPT, say, put in a couple of words, but don't put the actual company code into that. So a lot of things are all up in the air. Like I mentioned, regulation then follows innovation. A lot of companies are seeing the repercussions in other countries, in South Africa, as well as internationally, and then saying, oh, we saw this at OpenAI, or we saw this at Amazon, and then start documenting that. That's what we're seeing currently. The forward-thinking leaders are already saying, I've seen this type of issue, I really want to implement it, but then they have to justify it because it's a use case that hasn't yet happened. And those are some of the leaders, that's some of the paths that leaders are deciding to go on. So, but yes, the biggest consequence is you most probably lose your job. But as an entrepreneur, you can innovate as much as you want and the world will then follow suit. So if you want to go that route, I would say go that route.
Awesome, thank you. Maybe, Lucky, you can weigh in. What advice would you offer to developers working in less formal settings?
Go forth and conquer. Seriously, so I realized, for instance, with my students, that stopping them from using specific tools because of the fundamentals I want them to learn was going to take a lot of my time and effort to try and figure out how to have systems in place that can check their work and such. So instead, I pivoted the problems that I give them so that they are able to use these tools if they so choose to. And quite often, a lot of them will end up spending way more time trying to wrangle the tool to get it to this very specific use case that I gave them. They realize that it's probably easier to do it from first principles in any way. So I think when it comes to being new in the space, my approach is always to understand the bare metal of the thing. So if we talk about web development, for instance, you can't jump to React. You must know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Because when things go wrong, and they do in almost every tool that we use, you want to be able to look under the hood and go, oh, that's the problem, and solve it. So when you're looking at any tool, understanding the fundamentals helps you deal with the problems, but it also helps you assess whether the tool is able to give you value or not. So if I look at a framework and the framework, I don't know, is 2 gigs big, I'm like, but what does it do? It only tells me if the number is positive or not, right? So clearly that tool isn't worth my time, but I wouldn't be able to know that without being able to build this positive myself. So as a beginner, understand the fundamentals of the tool, learn how you can maximize its value, and then you go forth and conquer.
Thank you. I think Sheena helped us understand a little bit better what shadow IT means. I think I want to ask you, John, in terms of responsible AI. For some people, that's just a term on the shelf. So whatever you're using must already have it. Therefore, it absolves you of responsibility and thought. I just want to know from you, how would you redefine that term so that the audience can also understand that they're a part of it? And are there specific guidelines or community practices that developers can follow to ensure that their projects remain ethical and secure?
I'll take a stab at that. I think the starting point really is, one of the things that we all need to know is, what's the credibility of the platform that you use for your day-to-day usage, right? If you're thinking about an AI assisted sort of development process, is the tooling that you're using credible? Has it been approved for the market that you work in, for example, right? So the first step is understanding the tooling, the platform, and the requirements in different countries. It varies by region. Olivier once again spoke extensively about responsible AI earlier today. As you're doing models, as you're thinking about your use cases, as you're building the solutions, are they inclusive? Are they taking every single possible sort of parameter into consideration when it comes to breaking bias and ensuring that the responses, for example, from the tooling are fair enough? I think those are important things to keep at the back of your mind. The guidelines that we basically give developers is basically model responsibly and build responsibly. Right? Ensure that the data sets you're using also have a good representation of the sort of use case that you're working on. If it's an edutech tool, for example, education, for example, what biases are there in the data that you already have? How can you avoid some of those sort of consequential outcomes that we see from that? That's super important to think about. And then just bringing it back again to Shadow IT, when we spoke with Michelle about this earlier on, it's always in a negative context, and more often than not, in a sort of negative context in that sense. But if you're working in an enterprise, understand the guidelines and rules that you have to abide by. Right? Enterprise is typically very strict about these things. It's not worth the effort of trying to go around what's already been put in place. Your IT team knows what's best for you. If they have said all our data goes on to platform X, it's not bringing platform Y, this is going to land you in trouble for no reason. And the good thing is that to a large extent, we're starting to see parity in terms of features on a lot of these platforms. So it's really down to what is your context, what is your enterprise already signed up on, does it work for them? If you see a use case which is better resolved on a different platform, make the case for it without breaking the data of I know that's a long-winded response. I hope it answers a lot of the questions that you asked. And I just wanted to double click on something that you said about AI assisted tooling as you're getting started. If you're just getting started with software development, learn the habit, learn how to code, understand the fundamentals, what we typically call like the CS fundamentals, the computer science fundamentals. How do your loops work? How do your recursive functions work? Understand all of that. As we said, the tooling that we're using, a lot of it is in the early stages. It's going to improve with time. And it's important for you to be able to sort of review the outcomes that you're getting from this tool and see if what you're getting is credible. And you can only do that if you understand the way I'm using it. That is possible. If you're in your 0 to 2 year period, I would ignore the AI system.
Thanks very much. So perhaps as an educator, Sheena, how would you advise students or beginners from understanding their part in this conversation? Because as soon as you say AI or responsibility in AI, people think, oh, there's another learning curve. It's something outside of what I'm doing. How do you bring it closer together for all technologists to understand and prepare them to implement the right practices in real-world projects, especially when you're speaking to students who get things better, faster, the shortcut, do I have the answer? I mean, we are in that microwave generation. So how do you then help them understand that? Yeah.
There's a lot to that question. So I want to also double-click on what these gents said about understanding the fundamentals of the code. It's really, really critical. I think one of the things that beginner programmers do. It's such a confusing place for somebody who's new to this stuff. It's so confusing because you're looking at the future and you're looking at these tools and you're saying, my teacher, my lecturer, my educator is saying I should do it this way because it's their job to teach me. And so are they just holding on to their job? What's going on? Are they just like stuck in the old ways? So there is like a weird conversation that's happening there, and people look to the future and they're like, in the end, are these tools going to be writing code for us? Like, should I even be bothering to write code? Does the future not belong to those who can use these tools? And Don says, yes, the future does belong to people who can use these tools, but you should still write code yourself. You should still learn how to do that. And there's lots of reasons why I believe that. So one of the reasons is because learning to write code is actually probably the easiest part of this career. It's a foundational skill that a lot of other skills build on top of. The ability to express yourself very, very precisely. You can't do it so well in English. Like, lawyers argue about the meaning of a semicolon, often. Like, English is a blunt instrument. And sometimes when you're talking to a machine, you have to be really, really precise. You need a laser beam. So there's definitely a use for high precision communication with machines, and I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. I think there will be abstractions that come in over time. There's also definitely a need for learning how to express algorithms very precisely because it helps you to think them through and it helps you to communicate with other programmers. So it lets you kind of mind meld with them a little bit because you can see exactly what they're thinking. So there's so many good reasons to learn the foundations of code. So that's like the first thing that I tell people is like, learn how to do it yourself. Don't just hit with the hammer until it works. When it comes to writing code for organizations and whatnot, it is very tempting to move fast and just like get the code as quickly as you can and get it out there. But I can speak in my personal experience, like when I write code, and I use an LLM when I write code, a lot of the time I need to rewrite the code or turn the LLM off because it's just really distracting. And again, like going back to something that Lucky said about like he'll give the students like weird examples, weird things that they need to do, and then they find out that trying to get the LLM to do that thing is actually way harder than doing it themselves. And that's normal, like, because most of the problems you solve as a developer are new problems, and they're weird all the time. So, like, if you can only code up to a certain level while using these tools, and most professional problems are at least at this level, then you're gonna be stunting yourself. So for the students in the room, like, learn the foundations. It's not gonna hurt you, and it's not that bad. Just take some practice. What else was in that question? Okay.
It's okay. Thank you so much. I want to also leave some time for questions, but I think that I just want to ask Kutrano from a strategy point of view. Besides the strategy in itself, you mentioned people being fearful about their jobs, and this has also opened some opportunity in the job market as well. It's recreated and redefined expectations, people working hybrid, and also people wanting faster deadlines. So I just wanted to understand from you, what do you see happening in the market? What can the people in the room equip themselves with in terms of not only just reading up about responsible AI and then doom scrolling to something else? Like, what does this mean for opportunity for developers? What does it mean for technologists? Yeah,
so I just want to double down on what she said as well around, learning the basics. I think what AI does is it exposes mediocrity, if that makes sense. Because if we're all using the same tool, we're all going to produce something similar. And in the job market, you actually see it quite a lot with CVs, you see it quite a lot with emails. And so even when you're using those tools, you need to overlay that with your own brilliance. And I think that's important. In terms of what we see in the future, it's really around being T-shaped employees, and what that means is having great. So back to your point around having the basics, you need to be strong technically. and then you overlay that with your passions or personality or creativity. And what that means is, I'm an excellent developer. You can't tell me anything about Python and so forth, but I overlay that with finance. I overlay that with communication skills. I overlay that with public speaking. And so, if we're all in the room and you only have your excellent expertise technically, you're going to be overtaken by people that come up and show, I'm a great developer and I'm also excellent at fishing. It might not look like it applies to workplace in that moment, but what it applies to is how we relate as human beings. It's how we relate in conversation, and that's what makes you stand out. So in the future, it's going to be around what's your passions, what creativity are you bringing, and then how do you outshine in terms of brilliance. Because if we're all using cloud, our speeches are going to be the same, presentations are going to be the same. It's actually going to be boring, right? But you bring your cloud and you overlay that Michelle's personality, Lucky's personality, it brings a completely different dynamic, which is why I say, people always say, no, these tools are making us lazy. Yes, but it only keeps you to the mediocrity level. The ones who use it and then overlay that with the brilliance are the ones that are going to stand out in the future.
I wanted to add something to that.
Yeah, so the fear around AI, I think it's genuine and it's correct to be thinking about these things. But for the more experienced developers, if you think back to the type of things you were struggling with 10 or 15 or 20 years ago that we solved for now, right? What's happened is, as we solve problems, we create others, right? Everyone was running on-prem, which was a pretty standard, straightforward thing. We went to the cloud. And guess what? We've created other sub-industries because we're now all in the cloud. We now need platform engineers, we now need DevSecOps people, we need people to make sure that all of your accounts, FinOps is now a big thing. So as we solve these problems, we encounter much more nuanced and complex ones that open us up into even higher level problems. So yes, AI is going to get rid of a lot of the tedious tasks for us, a lot of the repetitive things, but that is going to come with its own complications that require you to know those fundamentals so that you can solve for them in these use cases that you're going to. So yes, we should be nervous, but we should also be excited for the newer things that we can actually do.
Awesome, thank you. I think before I open up to the floor, for questions, I just want our panelists to please just impart any sort of thoughts for the audience based on the conversation that we've had. Just an actionable point that they can take home with them, just to wrap up this awesome day of learning and introspection as well. Yeah, I'll start with you, Lucky, and then you can move it over.
I feel like I've already said fundamentals.
Awesome, thank you.
Fundamentals and trying to understand the reasons behind friction in organizations, even from a junior level. If somebody's telling you no, you're getting pushed from in a direction that you wouldn't expect, try to understand the why behind it. There will be friction. Implementation in IT, implementation in sales, there's always going to be friction. Just try always to empathize with the other side of the conversation.
Yeah, I feel like going into the fundamentals route as well. But also for professional development. 2 weeks ago, our CEO mentioned that 25% of code at Google now is AI generated. And that made all of us sort of stop and think. The thing is, AI-assisted development is here to stay. So if you're a professional developer, you've been working in the industry for a while, it accelerates the quality and speed of your work, which is a good thing. So embrace the tooling, don't fight it. Use it, it's your friend, it will make you better, but if you're getting started, just nail those.
So from my side, let the anxiety fear drive your brilliance, is what I'll say. So in as much as you're scared, in as much as I'm scared, Red decided to develop your communication skills, now have a consulting company. That's how life works. So the world is absolutely your oyster, and if you feel fearful, just let brilliance drive you forward.
Awesome. Thank you. Questions?
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. So I'm a final year student at Within Code, right? So we were choosing electives, right? And obviously we're not sure which schools we exactly want to go to. So for the fellow developers, my question is, when you started out software engineering, like did you know your specific niche from get-go, or is it something that took time to find yourself and discover your passion and what you really want to go into?
My current specialty is web. I studied game design, where there was no web development, and I studied electrical engineering, where I was writing assembly and C++. When I came in here, I knew nothing about the web front end. In fact, even though I studied game design, I'm really bad at drawing. I'm really bad at choosing colors too. So when I worked here, I wrote C# and C++ for a bank. And then I realized that I liked JavaScript because it felt so broken and like resonated with me. And that's the thing that I get into. JavaScript, I was going to say it might not exist in the future, but I think it's here. JavaScript developers are very stubborn. And let's say you take a language like COBOL, right? We still have COBOL developers in this company that have learned other skills and other tools. So the decisions you're making about what to focus on and learn today doesn't mean that's what you'll be doing in 5 years. Might be, might not be, might grow, you might grow, well, hopefully you will. But you will constantly get the opportunity to learn and work with different tools and different languages. So it's about learning how to solve problems using technology. That's our job. Our job isn't actually to write code, that's the easy part. It's about solving problems using the tools that we have. And our specialist tools is software.
And just to weigh in on that, it's to have the confidence of what Gufano was saying about passion, because that's going to matter at the end of the day. To have the confidence also to start and finish something, because there's a lot. You're bombarded with, look, this, if you're a prompt engineer, this is what's going to happen, then the next best thing is that, and then the next best thing is that. And I think from what they were saying about fundamentals, it also means commit, start and finish. Just finish and just be an expert at that thing. It will always be yours. You can always start something else, but at least you finish that. But now if you left it hanging and then you went to start something else and then went to start something else, then you'll be in this constant loop of always chasing your tail and having almost an imposter syndrome, even when you have the right job, where you realize that maybe I'm lacking because you didn't really hold down on those skills. So if next door they decided to be a data analyst and you want to do software development, do it, finish it. And then you can change your mind later. We have another question. Oh, you wanted to weigh?
So if I look back at my career, it all looks very intentional, but from the other direction, it really wasn't. It was very opportunistic. And I think what worked very well for me was, if I was offered multiple opportunities, take the one that I was most curious about, the one where I thought I would learn the most, especially at the beginning. In the beginning, maybe that'll mean going for something that isn't as well paid. Don't chase the paycheck, chase the place where you'll learn the most. And maybe you've got an idea of where you want to go, and that's a little bit to the side of it or whatever. Dig into the technology, see if it'll be something that will interest you, and chase your curiosity. Try to stay outside of your comfort zone, and great things will come from there. I think also a thing that I did more strategically later on in my career was I looked for, I wanted a career with impact, and sometimes that's a hard thing to get because there's a lot of places that are just the bottom line and get the work done, and then you get your money and then you can do what you want with that. But for me, that was important. So once I figured out the kind of impact I wanted, it was all right, is this a stepping stone in that direction? It's not there yet, this is a stepping stone. And that was very helpful.
Hi everyone. So my question is not directed to anyone. All of you answer. So how often do you go through someone's? How often do you go through whatever AI someone is using to determine whether they're exposing company secrets, which should lead to their dismissal, or they're just like consulting? Because you could delete, So yeah.
The operative question is, can you even delete?
I can see some of the beauty people paying closer attention. So different organizations will have different strategies on how they go about doing this. I don't think that any of them are bulletproof. We have been called in to consult for a client who suspected that their stuff was out there, and we were able to find that someone copied and pasted their code base as an answer to Stack Overflow to show someone an example. But some of that stuff that they were showing had proprietary things. So some companies will have policies that look at things like data exfil. So if you suddenly upload more frequent, like more data than you normally do, there are systems that will flag that and block you on the network. So there's a whole range of things, but I don't think it's a science to say today we run the checks on ChatGPT, because it's actually not very possible. So different organizations will have strategies, and the risk is actually not just on ChatGPT or any of these AI things. The risk is embedded in the work that you do and the way that you work. Again, another very scary example comes to mind when a very big organization needed us to audit their code base, and their processes inside were blocking them from giving me access. And so they put the entire company's repositories in a flash drive and drove it to me and gave it to me on a stick. And they said, here, now can you meet the deadline, right? So that in itself is unintended risk, because now they can't track where all of that stuff went, right? So it's unintended risk because the people were trying to get the deadline over the line, and the red tape that they had around it. So there, our first point of call was to help them understand what policies to put in place. From a developer perspective, you should be working in a way that a question like that shouldn't even bother you, because you're constantly doing the right thing. Your intention is to constantly right, and you're constantly looking guidance on what the correct thing is. So a question like that should be answered.
Thank you. My last question.
Hello guys, I wanted to ask a question. What advice do you have to a person who's looking to maybe develop a business or a startup around an idea in this age of AI where anything can be automated, any service can be automated? What should a person do?
Oh, that's so hard, man. So I'm starting a business. And it's very tricky. So the thing that I'm starting is an education business, and tech education is in a very funny place right now, especially with the whole LLM thing. So I think find ways to validate your idea. That's the first thing. Like look for your risk against assumptions and then try to test those. And ideally try to test those in a way that's profitable. Be like, okay, I think the people will pay me for like this participation. Don't build the whole thing out. But try to be as lean and as tight as possible. I don't know what your idea is, but if you can find like one person who's going to pay you, then that's very good validation. Does anybody else have something on that?
Maybe Kusana to weigh in?
So I think an area where like AI assisted tooling can help you is with quick experimentation. So you can come up with MVPs faster than before. So you have this like very quick rapid solutions you can take to market and test out. There are use cases where LLMs can also help you with like hypothetical scenarios when it comes to product adoption. Again, AI tooling can help you with quick testing, validating the idea, does this make sense? Also just with like basic market research, does this make sense? If you're building an edutech solution for Angola, right? And your tool is in English. You probably failed right from the get-go, right? This types of very basic sort of evaluation. AI tools are very quick at sort of checking the check boxes for you. So that way you have a better starting point than you would without the tool.
And also surround yourself with community, because the community will be able to assist you, will be able to help build your network. So look to people who are sitting in a similar space or recently gone through that space, and then network will help you grow.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. Please, a round of applause. The next part of events, right? We just want to say thank you to our panelists. It's not much, but it's filled with love, right? Thank you so much for imparting your knowledge, for coming as well. Thank you to the audience, thank you to our sponsors, thank you BBG, DBT, our speakers, Flutterflow, OfferZen. Like I said, you guys are going to get an email from me with regards to entering an OfferZen competition where you may get swag. There's also Google that's graciously got discount credits for you guys. So I'll also send you that link so that you can get into the technology. So without further ado, it's drink o'clock. So that will be upstairs on the rooftop. So please give yourselves a round of applause firstly. And I think that also we want to thank our photographer, Bruce, that's here. There he is in the he's been uploading your pictures. I want to thank Batandra, there he's working there in the back. He's our BBGR. That's been carrying with us from the beginning. And I'd like the organizers to come up, please, and the volunteers. Yes. So can the organizers please come up? So that the people can see you. Thank you. This is not a thankless job. You guys make it worth it. It's about community. And next year we've got big ideas. We want you guys to be a part of it. It's not always easy, but there's learning, and we've seen a lot of faces here before that look like they've grown. And we do appreciate that, and that's why we want you guys to engage with us on social media. And thank you so much. These are the organizers, these are the volunteers, the people that have been constantly Okay, GDG Johannesburg loves you lots, and thank you for coming in the weather. Let's go upstairs to the roof. And for parking, you can come to me, or Lisa, she can exchange your parking ticket.